Dave and I have been friends for a long time and very good friends and like each other. And I think you can also probably understand that Dave is by nature very happy. He's a good guy. He's one of those you like hanging out with, like being around with. I think some of it is the fact that he has found his career, his calling, being creative. Uh, and he's made a living at it. He supported his family. He's got a great family and great kids at the same time too.
Yeah.
So he is a what I would consider a very successful man. So,
Yeah.
Dave,
Yep. So
are you
visually,
a Mac person? Or are you a yeah, 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 yeah?
does that look good if we talk like
No, that's better. You
there?
can raise it up a little bit so I can see all your cool stuff. But yeah, I
Oh
want to see
yeah,
you.
well, let's see. We got that's
There
the
you go.
studio.
Yeah,
There
and
we
we'll,
go. If
yeah,
anybody wants to
that looks
see
great.
that.
Want to see that wonderful pan? There you go. Look at all the fun stuff going on. Okay,
Uh,
Dave, since you showed us the studio,
yep.
could you please tell me a little bit about the space? I know it, but the students don't. So kind of paint them a verbal picture of where you work.
Okay, I work out of a bedroom.
They will too.
Yeah, they will too. What I do is I work with a bunch of other illustrators. So we rent this house out. Actually, one of the guys owns this house as an extra property, and we each rent a room. And we've been together as a group for no decades, many decades. So yeah, it started off at some flea bag. You probably remember the artwork studio on Maple.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it was. Most clients didn't want to go there. It was such a rough neighborhood. Now we're in a real high class neighborhood, and clients like coming up here. And so yeah, sharing space is really nice because there is support.
Yeah.
You know, you get encouragement, all that kind of stuff. Many years ago, I was working out of the house, couldn't finish a single self promotional piece, which is key in illustration.
Mhm.
You gotta get those self promotional pieces out there. And I decided I am not one of those people who can work at home alone. I need to be with people. So when I moved into the artworks, I was able to finish every single self promotional piece I started. And so then I realized I need to be with other artists when I paint. So there, that's a picture.
And I'm glad you brought that up simply because in my business class, one of the things we talk about are knowing what your strengths are, knowing what your weaknesses are, and knowing that one of the things that the students love about being in the college atmosphere is that, seeing each other, seeing what you're working on, the
Yeah.
inspiration, that kind of friendly cooperation and, inspiration and also a little bit of competition, friendly competition help bring your,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and so it's really good for that. And that's why I'm glad you brought that up. I know it, and I wanted the students to know that too. And then if you walk downstairs, guys, of his studio or his house, there's some little offices, and they have a place. But there are 3 or 4 of you guys now.
There were four. We're down to three. One guy moved to Europe for several years, and then he just recently moved back. So who knows? He may come back. Originally, there were five of us. The downstairs place we rent out to whoever. It's
Okay.
yeah. Right now, it's a married couple, but the upstairs space is for artists.
And they don't mind you all those weird smells coming from an art studio.
Are you kidding? That's the best. No,
And what
no need to.
I
I
bring this up, guys, because this is a business class and it's about making money and what makes you successful. And I mean, these guys were we work long before we work was we work. I mean, when it
Yeah,
comes to
yeah.
using co op space, and artists have been notoriously, what's the word, imaginative when it comes to finding space, sharing the expenses. And it's always been something artists love to do. And so it's still available for you and your classmates, your friends, whoever you and when you're moving back to a small town. Now Dave is in a fairly big metropolitan area. He's in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, almost 4.5 million people there, I think now, right, Dave?
You brought up another good point. Again, I was at home. I couldn't finish my own self promotional work, which is crucial to go the direction you want to go. But what was also an issue is I wasn't part of any professional group, and there was the Dallas Society of Illustrators at the time, and it cost $35 a year for membership. And back then it was like, oh, I don't know if I could.
You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me.
$35, and I resisted. I mean, the insanity. And finally, when I did pay the membership and I got in, oh my gosh, it was so great to have all these professional artists around me to give me great advice and demonstrations, and we did workshops. It was awesome. So, linking up with a good professional group, not some small town
Yes.
fine art group,
Yeah,
but a
right.
professional art group.
There. Yeah. Well, Dave, we've talked a little bit about your place so far, and I want the students to know a little bit about who you are. So if you'd share us a little bit about your career, what you've worked on, some of the things you do. Guys, if you don't know Dave, he is an expert on all kinds of things, a true Renaissance man in the 21st century. So he's got a lot of things he knows a lot about, and he'll tell you what he doesn't know about as well. But
So there's all sorts of different slides in here, and they're not, I tried to group them, but so this is some fine art stuff. This is fun fine art. This is the kind of stuff I love. I love painting people in costumes. Do you remember Jeff Haney, Mike?
yes, I do.
Okay, so Jeff Haney back in the day would be doing all these fantasy sci-fi book covers with swords and dragons and all this stuff. And then when he was painting on his own stuff, he would paint fish. And it's like, fish. And he was over at the house, over at the studio one day. And I said, here you are doing all these cool book covers and you're painting fish for your own enjoyment. And he goes, yeah, that's kind of weird, isn't it? He goes, but I'm learning something. I used to love fishing as a kid. And for some reason, I just want to paint fish now. And so we talked about it and we realized everything that we really like painting were things that we loved as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And as a kid, I loved watching those old movies of places far away with great costumes, sci-fi stuff. So all that kind of stuff I loved. And so as I got older, whenever I get a chance, I love painting that kind of stuff. So that's a little something to make you think.
While
Okay.
we're here, while we're here, tell us about the frame. Is this something you found, made, added to?
Oh yeah. Anytime I do a painting that I think needs an extra special frame, I'll go ahead and design and make my own frame. So this frame is made out of wood. It has a bronzy patina on it, a lot of rivets. The rivets that are in there, are those real rivets? I can't remember on that one if I use real rivets, real aluminum ones, or wooden ones. Sometimes I use real wooden ones or real aluminum ones. And then I put a real traditional plaque down there, if you can see it. And it says the title of this one is Zoe Zeppelin Zapper. So I wanted to make it look retro. And if it was retro, it has to have a little brass plaque on it.
Yep.
Okay, here is okay. So you grow up, you go to these fairs, and they have sideshows. It's like, man, I would love to paint sideshow posters. So our school that I teach at, we had a fundraiser, and the theme was sideshow. So I went ahead and painted 3 sideshow posters, and had a lot of fun with them. The 3 models were friends of mine. One of them was actually a clay instructor. Another one was a flamenco dancer, and another one actually helped me. She was a partner in crime, leopard woman, when I was doing some party things. So that was all fun. And then I put myself, I have a little self-portrait
Yep.
in each one
Yep.
as what my name is Major D. Von Kramer. So I'm the great explorer that found these freaks of nature. So okay, let's see what's next. I guess they're not in any great order at all. Okay. Really quick, I like Shakespeare stuff. This was a scene from Shakespeare, Midsummer's Night Dream, that just always loved the scene, so I did a painting of it. It's 3 by 5 foot. I think there's 23 figures in there of different sizes, and so that was quite a thing to do a photo shoot. Shooting at the right angle, making sure all the lighting is correct. So it always starts off with a little color sketch to know where your lighting's coming from and stuff. and then you bring that to the photo shoot. And the photo shoot took me 2 full days and 40 hours to piece something together in Photoshop as a reference. So
And then tell them how you painted it.
it's with oil paints, and it was on a professional grade ply that painters use, and so I had to create a cradle for it, as you call it, a frame behind it,
Mm.
and it's a half-inch thick, and so it weighs a decent amount at 3 by 5 foot. So when I hang it, I have to hang it on cleats instead of just a post.
Right.
And then you gesso it up, you do a little sanding on it, and then you go to town on it. This actually started as a class project for advanced students. So years back, I handpicked just a few students and said, "Hey, how would you like to do some very advanced stuff?" And that is, instead of just taking an image off the internet, you have an idea, you do a thumbnail, you do a color study, you do a photo shoot, then you produce. And so everything is out of your mind.
This sounds like projects we do in class. So I'm glad you
Yes,
brought that up.
yes.
I
So
was, I remember when you're working on this, I was visiting your studio and really taken aback by it. I really loved, you had it leaning over in the corner because you had some paint work in the way at the time, but
yeah.
it was fun to see. It's great. And I've been watching the progress through it all the way. So thanks for sharing this one.
What was interesting is when the class was over, I wasn't quite done with this.
Right.
And then I had a little bit of a motorcycle accident, and
Yeah.
it sat there for like 3 or 5 years. And
Yeah.
then finally I pulled it out and I go, oh my gosh, I need to finish this. So I finished
Yeah.
it and had a big unveiling. So
It deserved it because it was beautiful, even in progress. It was really nice to see. So I'm glad it's finished.
okay, the next one. Okay. This is a little bit more fine artsy. And again, it's all people in costumes. Someone asked me, you paint a lot of women. Okay. And this is the very sad thing about fine art. When I was an illustrator, you painted equal men and women, and it was fun. I love the variety, all that kind of stuff, book covers, all that kind of stuff. When it gets into fine art, you paint a picture of a man, it's
No.
gonna be a hard sell.
Yeah. Well, look at this mug, man. No one wants to buy this mug.
Yeah. And so you could do some really cool looking masculine, neat things, and no one's going to want to buy it. And so you end up doing a lot of females, which isn't bad. I mean, I love doing it, but it'd be nice to have a little bit more variety. But these were real fun pieces, and they're all. Let's see, the first one with the lady with the greenish background, that's 4 foot high, and all the others, they're the middle one, that's 24 by 30, and the one on the end is 2 by 3 foot, so 24 by 36.
Yep.
So they're all fairly close to the same size. I make all my own costumes, and which is really fun. So you make the costume, you design the costumes, you do the photo shoot, and you just have a great time doing it. It eats up a lot of time, but it really is fun.
Well, you bring up the thing about time, and this is the part that being a fine artist gives us as artists a little bit more of the space to create what we want to create as opposed to what we knew we could create if we had the time under a deadline.
Yes. Yeah, that's with commercial art, okay, you get a book cover. You got 2 or 3 weeks to do it, maybe a month if they gave you enough notice. So you're going back and forth with drawings really quick, and so in the end, you pretty much have a week. Well, at least I did. Usually had a week to do the painting, and you're putting in a lot of liquid because of oil painting. You got to have that thing dried, and then you'd have to slap it between some cardboard, send it off to New York, and then it was gone.
Yeah.
And so it there was a question that would always come up in the illustrators group: when do you know when a painting is done? And the answer is always, well, when is it due? So what no matter what it looks like, you got to send it off.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, there's some book cover. Well, I did a lot of book covers, and I got to be honest, half the ones that I did, I'm just not really pleased with. That could have been so much better, but you send it off, and you kind of feel like it's a factory.
Yeah, Dave, just to make you feel better, I've got hundreds of book covers I did, and it was almost always when I'd get one back, I would finally see it with those fresh eyes. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I let it out of here. And then I would spend a day or two just fixing what I didn't like, and no one would ever see it again. It would be dry eventually, and then I'd put it back in the shelves. And sometimes I might sell them, but for the most part, I did that just for me because I couldn't stand knowing that it was not what it should be.
Yeah, I'm not that obsessive. When it comes back and it looks like crap, it's like, oh, whatever. Throw it in the drawer. I don't want don't want to waste. Yeah. Boy, we can go on about that forever. That's okay. Let's see. Oh, here's some commercial pieces. These were, well, one was a book cover. So the one on the left-hand side with this guy yelling, it was a book cover. And we use a lot of our friends for our models. This particular friend, his name is Mark Ross. He's a designer in town. He does a lot of painting also. He's a really nice guy. And I forget what, it was some Revolutionary War type of true story. The guy on the right, Bronco Bob, was for Bronco Bob's Gourmet Chocolate Chip Cookies. So it was for a cookie company. And they wanted some sort of Remington looking type of painting, or Remington Wyeth, feel.
Yep.
Notice how small the horse is.
Yeah.
Okay. It was important to get Bob big.
Big Bob.
And, so Bob needed to be big. And so, but most people don't notice how small it is. It almost looks like a kangaroo that he's on, doesn't he? Or maybe that creature from Star Wars, from that Frozen.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, that was a fun piece. And the cookie company loved it so much they bought the original off that one.
Wow, good for you.
Okay, here's some other book covers. You can see quite a wide range of styles. So the one on the left is Wind in the Willows, very cartoony type of style. It's stiff, but it's okay. I mean, a lot of these things, when you got to move quick, they get a little stiff. I could have worked on some edges. The one in the middle, Christmas Carol, I did two Christmas Carol book covers, and I have two boys. And when it was time to do the first Christmas Carol book cover, my oldest son was the perfect age for Tiny Tim. Okay, so that's my boy on the back of Mark Ross's, Mark Ross's back. So Mark Ross modeled for me again, and so that's my son. And then by the time the second book cover came along, my youngest son was at the right age, so I used him on that also. So that was fun. Let's see, the one on the left is a Alice in Wonderland type of painting. Let's see, some people who aren't used to seeing all this headroom up here, design wise, it doesn't look great, but that's where the title went. So, you got to have something up there.
It's funny, we're doing that in my 384 class. I'm making them do text as part of the layout, just so they understand that they do have to account for that.
Okay, I got to tell you about book covers. You see book covers, you go to Barnes and Noble, whatever, you see book covers, and you go, wow, that's really cool. Wow, that's really cool. I want to be a book cover illustrator, And then it comes, you're able to do it now. So I'm doing book covers. I go, oh, I hate this. This is horrible, because there's so much control. You don't get to dictate what you want to do. There are a few jobs where the client says, Dave, your self-promotional work is off the charts. I want you to do whatever you want to do. Read the book, do some drawings. We're okay. We're going to go with your idea. So I read the book, and then I come up with some sketches, and the designers go, wow, this is really cool. We love it. We love it. Okay, we'll get back with you. They come back later. This is awful. We can't accept it. Well, what happened? Marketing department saw it. Marketing department is so afraid of anything out of the normal. And they go, no, just take a picture of a little girl and have her hold her grandmother's brooch. That's all we want to see. And you go, oh. And so that's what you do. And after that happens a few times, when a designer says, hey, just do whatever you want to do, it's like, no, just tell me what you want me to do. I'll do it. I don't want to read the book. I don't want to, But the really cool book covers that are out there that you go, wow, someone spent like a month on this. This is just awesome. I had a chance to talk to some of those people,
Yeah.
and I would ask them, how do you do this? I can't spend that kind of time on a book cover. I mean, this is phenomenal. And they go, well, my wife makes more money than I do. And, and it allows me the time to do all this. Normally I couldn't do this. So at the time, I'm the only income for the family. So, I gotta knock these out and move them on.
Yep.
So we had really good business meetings during the illustrators group. So that's probably what helped us quite a bit. Once a year, we would have those annual business meetings.
It did. Exactly. You talk about the covers. I remember doing a book cover for a book who the hero was kind of a geeky nerd. And so I drew him in kind of a funny, but made him a geeky nerd. Sales or marketing comes back and said, no, we can't, this is not acceptable. We can't use this. He looks like a geeky nerd. Well, that's what he's described in the book. No, no, no. Make him look like Tom Cruise and then we'll be okay.
Yes, yes. Okay, I got some stories. Okay, you guys, you're gonna be dealing with this stuff. So I'm working with Tracy Locke. They're a big agency down here, and they did Pepsi and a lot of other big accounts, Frito-Lay probably, and some other things. So I talked to an art director. An art director is given permission to hire an artist and oversee it, but they are not given ultimate authority, which is the problem. So I'm dealing with this art director. He tells me what he wants me to do. I give him some drawings. He goes, hey, this is great. He signs off on them. I go ahead and paint it up and walk it over there, hand it in. He goes, Dave, this is right on, man. This is awesome. This is great. He goes, stay right here. I need to show this to the creative director. He goes into the creative director's room, which is all glass, so I can see what's going on. I just can't hear them. The creative director looks at it, throws it on the tabletop, throws his hands up like this, and starts pointing his finger at this art director and putting his hands like this. He comes back out and he goes, this is the worst piece of art I've ever seen. He goes, I can't accept this. And I'm just dying laughing. I said, I saw the whole thing. What happened between this is the best piece of work you've ever seen to this is horrible? He goes, well, the creative director didn't like it. Not only did he didn't like it, but I have to repaint it free.
No.
And it's like, but you were given authority. It means nothing. So what do you do? What do you do? So I repainted it. And
I told my students a very similar story to this, and it ends a lot differently. Let's just put it that way.
Okay, now I have stories that do end differently. Okay, there was one where it was a children's book, and they don't pay that much when you do the inside. The covers are okay, but when you do the inside, you're really taking a beating. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, it might be fun, and give me some extra time, and I'll do it, and it'll be fun. And so the art director loves it. And she goes, hey, these are great. So a week later, she calls me back and says, hey, the character that you have for so-and-so, we want a different look. We want you to shoot a different model. And that's half the illustrations.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what you're telling me? I have to spend money to shoot another model. Then I have to repaint all this. This is going to kill a month of my time. She goes, yeah, I know. I'm sorry I have to do this to you. And I said, well, I tell you what, who gave you the authority to have the approval on the pencils and on the models? Well, the owners did. And I said, it's not my fault. It's the owner's fault. Mm-hmm. Okay. They should not have given you the authority. They should have taken the authority. But since they gave it to you, then you need to stick with it. And one of the very rare times she said, you are absolutely right. And 2 days later, she came back. She goes, Dave, all the artwork looks awesome. Thank you. They were good looking. They're just being nitpicky. People get nit, and their little nitpickiness will cost you a month.
Yep.
So, and you also get to a point, excuse me, you have to say, if this is the way my art career is going to be, maybe I don't want it. Maybe I need to be pickier with my clients.
Mhm.
And maybe it's worth losing that client. And so there's a big book publishing company in the country called Bantam Books, and I used to do a lot of work for them, but they were pretty bad, and they wanted me to do free book covers because similar stories happened. They loved the book cover, the marketing department didn't, and my rep wouldn't stick up for me, and I said, that's it. I've had it. If this is the way Bantam Books is going to be, I don't want them as a client. And my rep got really upset because that's money. That's
Yeah.
money for her and stuff like this. And I go, I would rather be a manager at a restaurant or something than put up with this crap because it was stressful.
Yeah.
Well, being a manager at a restaurant stressful too. Maybe I wouldn't do that. But you have to come to a point where you say, why did I get in this business to begin with, and is it still fulfilling that need? Do I still enjoy it, or is it just so bad that maybe I should consider something else? So
Good point.
okay. Oh yeah, this was fun. Another commercial piece. This was a mural. This is 5 or 6 feet by 20, 25 feet.
Yeah,
I
I'd say,
can't.
tell them how big it was. This was huge.
Yeah, it's huge. It's a wall at a restaurant. It's at a hamburger place. Uh, this was a job I turned down 3 times. It was shortly after my accident, and I could barely walk. Um, and I told them I couldn't walk. There's no way I could paint this. And the painting was not done at the restaurant. It was done in a warehouse. Excuse me. Uh, and and then it was done on canvas, gesso canvas, and then they peel it up and then they laminate it at the warehouse or at the restaurant. So these are all Texas musicians, very famous, and then we have Jesus in the middle. And the restaurant owner is really into music, and he wanted to do a Last Supper type of meal where all the musicians are having a good time together. And getting the reference was really hard on most of these because most of these people really didn't exist during the digital photography age. So you may have gotten at most 1 or 2 decent photos of one of these musicians, and the lighting was totally different from all the other musicians. So all the lighting is different. So I had to make the lighting look the same on all of them. So you have to move the lights and shadows around on their face. And if you do that, the more you have to fake, the more plastic they look.
Yeah.
So you might say, "Hey, Dave, not your best work, but they start looking plastic, and plus there's a deadline. And I also had to hire an assistant because I couldn't really get up on the ladder, and there was a lot of ladder working that needed to be done. Uh, so, this was fun, and every once in a while, I hear people talk about this incredible mural. Of course, they have it under these really beautiful lights. I mean, this painting glows. It's all with oil paints, okay, and it glows really nice. So what you're seeing here doesn't look nearly as good as what it looks like when they hang it. In fact, the owner loved it so much, he told the contractors, he goes, "Do not laminate it on the wall. We're going to build a fake wall for it, and we're going to hang it. And if my restaurant ever goes belly up, we're taking this with me." So that was a good compliment.
That's a very good compliment. Absolutely.
So yeah, that was fun. Okay, let's see, portraits. Here's some kid portraits. Really quick background, history of at least a history of illustration with me. Illustration was dying. In fact, it died rapidly. Within 1 month, I lost 80% of my clients, and they never came back. And it wasn't local; it was national, all over. And it was the internet and clip art that came onto the scene, and that just devastated the lucrative world of illustration. So now it's just a little harder to make money because you don't get paid as much. And so when that happened, I threw myself into portraiture. And portraiture takes a good 7 years to really get established and to get your work going, and to actually start making your main income from it. So I started right away and start working on that. While I was working on my portraiture, I was doing book covers to keep me going until the portraits got kicked in. And so these are some of the kids that I've done, and they were fun. I look back at these. These were done quite a while ago. I'm really pleased with some aspects of it. Some aspects I'm not real pleased with. The girl on the right here, her hair. I probably should have taken some cross strokes into it and done some things. Other than that, it looks nice. So uh, I won't badmouth myself anymore. But you look back and you appreciate where you were at and that you're able to do it. And but unlike you, Mike, I will not retouch it. It is what it is, a moment frozen in time. So here's some other portraits. The only time I paint women, it has to be against blue backgrounds. I won't do it any other way. uh, let's see, the one on the left, her outfit is almost totally made up. It was just a bunch of fabric I draped over her, but all the pattern and stuff on it I created in the painting process. The ballerina on the right, she's a professional ballerina. She just recently retired, and her dad asked me to paint her, and her dad is a friend of mine. And so I just finished that one, I think about a year ago. So it wasn't, well, maybe a little bit more, well, maybe a year ago. Yeah, right at the end of beginning of COVID. So, and let's see, pet portraits. Yes, I do pet portraits. So just some, a dog, a horse, kitty cat, stuff
That's a
like
very
that.
heroic kitty cat, I might add.
Yeah, that is one posh cat. uh, this was a fun portrait project that was harder than what I thought it would be. So a client called me up, and this young lady was painted maybe 70 years ago. She was maybe 16, 17 years old when she was painted. She was a young lady by an artist, and then she passed away, and her kids were kind of wondering who was going to get the portrait of mom, and they all wanted the portrait. So instead of fight over it, let's hire an artist to make 3 more copies of it.
Wow.
So I made 3 more copies. So I call it the triplets, even though there's 4 of them. So and as you see, I painted 3 as identical as I could. So my life as a forger might play big in my future.
All
So,
right.
uh, and one thing I've learned about forging a painting, it's hard. It's harder than just doing it on your own. I even said, "Hey, would you like me to make the dress look better? Because the dress, the face is pretty nice, but the dress is pretty weak. I can make it look better." And she said, "No, it has to be identical." I said, "Would you like the painting to be clean first because it's pretty dingy?" And she goes, "No, we've gotten used to this dinginess. We want it all dingy." So it took me forever to match the colors, the strokes, everything. And then when I handed it in, they just loved it. So it was a big hit.
That's a tough commission, man.
Yeah. But yeah, it was fun, but it was tough. Okay, I do photography. I got into photography because I shot so many people for reference that I thought I'd up my game. So you get strobe lights and you start making the costumes better and you start having fun at that. And before you know it, you're shooting photography for photography's sake. And so these are some steampunk shots that I took. And the section on the right here, well, the 2 on the right, I went ahead and did a lot of Photoshop work and had real fun. So able to create little mini posters with those, and those were fun. One of them I turned into a painting, which I don't have to show you on my slides, but It was really nice. I had some, well, I custom made some frames. They deserve, so the frame on this mechanic, this steampunk mechanic here, I had 3 of them made. I designed it, and a friend of mine who was doing wood, who does woodwork, he goes, "Let me make the frames for you, Dave." And I go, "Are you kidding? You're gonna make these for me?" He goes, "Yeah, I'd love to do it." So he made the wooden part and put black lacquer on it. And then I came back and did all the gold scroll work and stuff, and just had fun making it. And it goes so well with that steampunk feel.
It does. It looks great. So to think that's not Photoshop, that makes me even more impressed.
Yeah. Now this is Photoshop. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I
Yeah,
know, but I'm
this is.
talking about all the scroll work and everything else.
Yeah, the scroll work. Yeah, that's the original frame. Boy, you know,
Because that would be so easy to make me a nice little rivet brush and just pull that right down, no problem.
yeah. Yeah, I took a picture of myself actually doing the lettering on it. And if you know anything about gold paint, if you get really high quality gold paint that's very opaque, it takes you at least 2 coats.
Yep.
If you get the cheap stuff, you wish you would have had the best stuff.
No kidding.
Okay, let's see. Okay, now we get into props and other weird stuff, cosplay type of stuff. So this is an axe I did. This is all made from plastic and foam. And so the axe handle is made from PVC pipe that I made look like wood. Everything is made from foam and painted to look like metal and leather. Even the little bit of wood here on the end is actually a piece of foam to make it look like the end of this wooden shaft. And then the axe heads are they can come off, and I can put different types of axe heads on this. It's pretty fun. In fact, I have it hanging on the wall. Maybe if we have time, I can play with that. The mask on the right hand side is an Egyptian Catwoman. I was designing an original Egyptian Catwoman uh, costume uh, to go along with the original story of Catwoman. She comes out of Egypt and all this stuff. And so, what would that have looked like if I would design it? And so, I designed this real nice costume. And I was working with someone who this costume was supposed to fit, and it didn't quite work out. And so, I ended up keeping the headgear and never did finish the rest of the costume. But it was real fun. It was vacuum formed, part of it, and then hand painted, and all these wonderful things you do to it. So it's actually behind me. uh if I move the camera, you guys probably saw it when I was
Yep.
panning.
It was up there. Yep.
Here's here's Amazon warrior costume that I built, again all out of foam. And I did this because years ago, people were struggling with foam and heating it up and bending it. And I thought, well, you could probably vacuum form this stuff. So I built a vacuum forming machine, and I start vacuum forming EVA foam. And I even did a video on it years later saying, hey, you can vacuum form EVA foam. And it's on YouTube, and it made a big hit. But I wanted to do a costume just to show that you can do it. So I vacuum formed the front and the back. I connected them together. Then you see the mid process, me adding on bits of plastic and more foam, and then my final patina on it. And this is a one of a kind custom fit just to this one particular girl who modeled for me. Basically, she got the costume free as long as she came down to the studio anytime I needed her. And she would say, "I'll be there," and she's down there, and I'm working on her some more. And I said, "Okay, go away. I'll call you in a couple weeks."
So
And
when you're painting this, what are you using to paint on top of that?
it's a mixture of acrylics and oils.
Okay.
And so any acrylic, and when it comes into patinas like this, you can go back and forth with oils and acrylics. There's no rules as far as I'm concerned. In the fine art world, there is a saying: you can paint oil on acrylic, but not acrylic on top of oil. And a good friend of mine, uh, Thomas Blackshear,
Yep.
who we both know, said, "Well, that's not necessarily true. It depends on how thin and stable the oil is." Uh, but if you're talking, a painting that's going to last several generations, yeah, I wouldn't paint acrylic on top of oil. But for a costume, there's no way a costume is going to last 50 years. It's going to start falling apart way before then. And so any separation between, from shrinkage of oil is just not going to happen. And
Mhm.
so you can kind of go back and forth if you want. Acrylics are nice because they dry quicker, but oils, the control you have over it and the textures you can get, you just cannot get with acrylics, and so you get a much better weathered feel with oil paints. So, and let's see, then I do sculpting and mold making and casting. So I needed a set of wings for a costume I was making. So I start off with the drawing, then I get out the clay, and then I sculpt it, and then I make a mold, then I cast the mold, and then I threw a lion's head on it. The lion's head is something I bought. Uh, but when I casted it before the plastic seized up thoroughly, I pulled it out of the mold and then I bent it and I formed it to where it was going to be on the steampunk chest area. And then I let it sit up, and so it's custom fitted just for one of the steampunk photo shoots I did. In fact, it was this steampunk photo shoot. I don't know if
Ah,
you can see. It's
yep,
right here
yeah,
underneath the bust area, right
yep,
there.
cool.
Okay, almost done. Okay. This was a fun piece. Okay, so you're a kid, you grow up, you start seeing these old World War II bomber paintings, and you go, oh my gosh. Or you go to the movie theater and you see the movie posters and you go, oh, that's so cool. Or you see a cheap detective novel and you go, oh, I love that book cover. And you want to paint that stuff. So I thought, I'm going to paint it. So again, this is on real high quality plywood. It's probably a 9-layer holeless birch finished professional grade plywood. The bullet holes are actual holes that I drilled and carved, and the rivets on there are real rivets. And I made it look like the side of an airplane. In fact, there were several people contacting me wanting to know what plane that came off of because they thought it was a real airplane. So the photo shoot was interesting because there's no way you can get a girl flying like that, you know? So what I did is I said, I told the model, I said, pretend like the wall over here is the ground and the ceiling is your horizon line. And then she posed with one foot pointed, and then she would point the other toe. And then I just turned the photo sideways and voila, she's flying.
Yep.
And when you light, you have to light in a certain way. So, when you write it the way the photo should be, that it looks like the light's coming down from above. So, and then I did a lot of research on bomber art, and some of them are quite vulgar, but most of them are really playful. Most of them are just fun, playful. So the whole thing was her holding a bomb that says "Hello, boys," and "Angel Baby." That was a big theme back then. And so just to make it have that feel of that more playful feel of those bomber. And let's see, yeah, like I said, a lot of this was out of order. This is a steampunk piece. This is actual working sculpture. And so everything's made with leather and plastic casts, and the buttons actually work, lights go off, things happen. And that was actually for this painting. If you see it on her arm right there.
Again,
So,
something you wouldn't have the time to do if it were a quick commission for a cover.
right. And so that brings up a really good point. I'm a professional artist. I need to make money, but I also have to have those projects that I do for myself to push myself to excellence that I cannot do on a paid job. It's really hard to do that because of the limitations. I don't get to call the shots so much on a paid job. I get to call some of the shots, but then there's the deadline. If I decide in the middle of a project I want to make it go this way and be more creative, I can't do that. But on these projects that I do for myself, I can do anything I want. And so if you're going to have hobbies and you need them, let it still be in the creative field. That way, if you get really good at the hobbies, you can actually make a buck or two on it. And so it was doing these costumes that led me into talking to a bunch of cosplay people going to the conventions, and they wanted me to teach them how to do some stuff. And so I was doing some workshops, vacuum forming workshops and things like that. But it also led into some very frustrating moments trying to make these costumes look good, which made me develop certain products for myself to help me along. And now I sell those products to the cosplay community. So when you're around mediums a lot and stuff like this, you get used to what can do what and stuff like this, and you start making contacts with chemists and friends. And so I have three products out there, and I'm getting ready to. We're going through testing on the fourth product, and hopefully that'll be out this summer. And they are all sandable fillers for EVA foam for some of you cosplay people out there. And they all do slightly different things. And so they're starting to pick up popularity. I'm starting to get some requests from different countries wanting me to get it into those countries, which gets real expensive, but so it's not going to happen soon. But that's fun. And my son and I get to work on it together. And so I get to spend a lot of time with my son doing that also. Let's see, I'm going to kill the share.
Great presentation,
Uh,
Dave. I really appreciate all the imagery and the wide range of kind of career ins and outs and interests. And I don't know any illustrator, even the ones who are only talking about their specialty, who are not fine artists, who don't have many wide ranging varieties of
yeah,
interest.
I look at my life. The time period I was in was probably the worst time to be an artist because technology changed so rapidly
It
that
is.
if you spent 2 decades building up a high quality skill, and then all of a sudden in 1 year that skill means nothing,
Yeah.
zero. And so for those out there today, the same thing is happening. Man, you could be incredible at a certain program and a certain skill, and then that skill may be worth jack in 5 years. So it means nothing. So keeping these side creative outlets going is real important. And you're always thinking this could be a possible job, but for now, I'm just going to learn how to do videography or photography or sculpting or this or that or whatever. And if you're going to research it too, if you're going to say, hey, if I'm going to spend my time making this a hobby, I might as well make sure I know there might be a possible market for it, not a dream market like, oh, I want to be a comic book artist. I just, and people are making money at doing comic books. No, they're not. If you do research, you'll know they're starving to death.
Guys.
Yeah, yeah. If you're at the top of your game, if you're at the top of the comic book artist illustrator market, you still are not having a really good plush life. It's still, you're still living on the edge somewhat, because I know these guys. I've met with some of them, and you can tell they have that same look in their eyes as I do. They don't have a savings account. They're riding that narrow edge there.
We talked a little bit about time. If I were to ask you what a typical day, a work day looks like for you, what would you say?
I try to keep it fairly business, and this is nice. I leave the house at a decent time. I don't quite do 9 to 5. I do 10 to 5:30, and that way I miss rush hour traffic. But I still hit it on the way home. And then I teach a class at night and a class on Saturday, so it kind of fills in some time. But usually I get to work, and I sit in front of the computer, and then I complain for the first half of the day, and then I'm depressed for the second half. No, no, usually I have too many things going on, and it's overwhelming, and I keep on having to tell myself maybe I shouldn't take on certain free things. You got to be really careful, and that, yeah, sure, these things are fun to do and I might make money at it, or I am making money at it, but it's very little. But these jobs over here are really paying good, even though they're very boring, but they are paying really good.
Yeah.
And so it's that fine balance, because if you just do the really good paying jobs, it will suck your soul, and it will make life, you will come home angry. And so there's this balance. um, i've I've always thought that my self promotional pieces are just as important as my paying gigs, because my self promotional jobs that I'm doing are um, a direction that I want to go. And it's also my best work. So anything I do self promotionally is always my best work. So my portfolio is going to look better. And when people see it, they see the direction I want to go. So, for instance, before I was doing book covers, I thought I want to do book covers. There's no way I could have shown my commercial portfolio around with all my point of purchase and commercial work to publishers and they would hire me. They never would have done that. So the first thing I did was I started painting book covers for myself. One of them was an Arabian Night painting that I used Ben Vincent on, another one of the artists here. He was a model I used several times. Like, you're at the studio. I need a male model, dude. Get over here in my room. I need to take a picture of you. And so, and it was that Arabian Night piece that started landing me a lot of book cover jobs. And it was that particular piece that ended up in the showcase book, those illustration books. And so that project, I would turn down some illustration jobs just to get that done. I didn't turn them down in a stupid way.
Yeah.
I had plenty of money, things were going well, I can afford to take some time off to do this book cover. Then once I got it done, I jumped back into making money. But then that self-promotional piece started paying off big time. So you have to think about those self-promotional pieces as being just as important as a paying gig.
Now, about self promotion, how do you promote? Are you using print material? Are you using all online? Are you doing any Facebook advertising? What's your strategy?
Yeah, there's a lot of prayer involved. And well, of course, back in the day, you had a transparency shot, big 4x5. So they're really large. You put a frosted back on it. And when you showed your work, every designer that you showed your work to had a light table and then they would look at it. And then printed material was big. Of course, that is all gone. It's all internet. And you have a website. And if you are in the creative business, you have to have a website. And your website is kind of like your brochure that you can send people to. You can keep updated. Uh, I would use, and once it's up, you really don't have to do anything to it for at least a few years, and then every few years update it. So it depends on what business you're in. If you're in portraiture and stuff, I think you can update it a few times a year. If you're in a ever changing platform type of medium, yeah, you got to change it twice a year, at least twice a year. Yeah. And what you want to do is you don't want to keep on adding good stuff to it. As you add good stuff, take away the crappiest piece that you have on there. Always try to up the quality of your website. I was given really good advice many years ago when I was trying to find work in Chicago, and I was very young, right out of college. An art director up in Chicago started flipping through my book, and he was saying these words of praise every time he flipped the page. He would go, "Crap, crap. This is all crap." He shut the book after a few pages and he shoved it. "Why are you wasting my time?" He goes, "This is awful." Okay. And then later on, he had to talk with me. And what he said was, "I'll give you one good bit of advice." He said, "Don't fill your portfolio full of crap just to make it look like you did a lot of work."
Right.
He goes, "If you only have 10 really good pieces, only put 10 good pieces in there. Don't put the bad ones in, because the worst piece in your book is the best I can expect of you." And so if you have all these wonderful pieces and you have a couple of bad ones, people are going to look at you and say, "Ooh, he might give me that bad one. He might do bad work like that." So you got to make sure as you're doing your website and other things, take off the bad ones and replace them with good ones. So there. Hope that makes sense.
It makes great sense, my friend.
And don't steal someone else's artwork and put it on your site. There was somebody showing their artwork many years ago up here, their portfolio, and I was flipping through it. And I go, "Oh, that's nice, that's nice." And then I saw a piece that caught my eye, and I said, "Wow, you did this?" And they go, "Yeah." I said, "You did it all?" And they go, "Wow, that's pretty good." I said, "You do all your work here? You know, you're not taking anybody's work, have you?" "Oh no, I would never do that." I said, "You go, why'd you ask?" I said, "Because I did that painting right there in your portfolio." uh,
Dave, is there anything else you wanted to share or just talk? I mean, it's been fun for me and I want my students to enjoy it too, but
Okay, this is advice I give to people who want to get into the art world. Uh, and it is, they usually say, "We want to follow our dream." And my response is, "But what happens if your dream is destructive?" I don't, there's a lot of cliche stuff that we pick up growing up, and your parents, you can be anything you want. Of course you can't be anything you want. I can never be a professional basketball player. There's just certain things you can't do. So you got to be realistic. And so anything, any desire, any creative desire that you have, uh, talk to professionals who are actually in there, in that field. uh, Join professional art groups and research it first, because the worst part about my career is the business aspect of it. Okay, it's me having to deal with business, me having to deal with clients, me having to deal with all that stuff. Now some of my clients are really nice people and they're a pleasure to work with, but me having to constantly drum up business and do stuff, and the business part also has its emotional downward spin. So you may have periods of time where, you know, if you're hired, if you're a gamer and you're hired by a gaming company, and when the game is finished and they lay you off, what are you going to do? You have no work for the next 6 months. Don't be tied in to one type of art form. Don't get a big head of how great you are in this one art form, because the legs will be cut under that dream really quick. Things are changing so fast. So enjoy the creativity in different fields. Keep learning new things constantly. That part's actually enjoyable. I enjoy learning things. um, okay, some of you don't know this, and Mike, I don't even know if you know this. Well, you probably do. I also do coding.
I
I do
do know.
website coding stuff. It's this geeky side of me. And I do other things. I'm thinking, I'm looking around the room. Oh, I'm doing Zoom classes now, painting classes with my son. And that's fun. And I've done some DVDs and stuff. And so it's just this constant thing of, don't be fixed uh, in your self-worth on one type of creative outlet. You are creative people. If you're going into gaming and game design, and you think this is the only thing, this is my only dream, this is the only possibility that I could be fulfilled, that's stupid. Because if there were no gaming platform out there, you would do something else creative, and you might be saying the same thing. There's plenty of creative things out there that you can really enjoy. So don't throw all of your self-worth into one thing. So when you and I probably got into the marketplace and stuff, in our minds as young people, we thought, we're going to be the best. And people are going to know us and they'll want our autograph.
Right.
It will be somebody, you know? And as you get older, you go, that's stupid. My family's important. My relationships are important. My friends are important. That's what brings me true joy. Being creative is really fun too, but being the best and being noted for that isn't really important at all. I'm making decent money. I'm paying all my bills. I have great relationships. You know, I'm doing really good. So if you're I think if you're trying to be the best, then you're always going to be angry and bitter, because you're going to see somebody else cranking out schlock and they're going to get noted for it and they're going to be praised for it. and you're going to say, but that's schlock and my stuff is so much better. See, that's where all that bitterness comes in. So if you're not worried about being famous, then the bitterness goes away. You know, friends that were like that, and it struggled and struggled. And so, yes.
And struggled right up until the end. Even if they were recognized, ended up struggling too.
Yeah.
Dave, I want to say thanks for sharing all your wisdom with my students and the time with me. It's been
Yeah.
enjoyable, much more enjoyable than some of the other work I have waiting for me to do after this. So
Yeah, you got a lot of editing.
I'm not cutting a thing.
Yeah, yeah. Good. Okay, you are going to give me a credit at the end of this video, right?
Oh, yeah.
This
And
little scrolling credit.
credits with all your names and contact information and how to get in touch with you and where to borrow money from you from. And
Yeah,
all
yeah. No contact information, please. Okay. Hey guys, I hope you got a lot out of this. So,
thanks, Dave. Take care, man.
okay, bye bye. Ending meeting.
Ending the meeting. Okay.
Adios.